In this session, I will explain to you a few tips and techniques for IELTS reading section. These tips and techniques are useful both for IELTS general test and IELTS academic test. Before learning my approach to reading passages, please pause the video and do the passage in your own way. Note the start time and the end time of the task. Then learn my approach, and with my approach do one more reading passage given at the end of the video. Compare your performance in each task. See whether you could save time and whether you could increase the number of right responses by applying these techniques. Now pause the video and proceed. IELTS reading approach. There are some do's and don'ts. There are 5 do's. The first is understand the title of the passage. The title of the passage provides you with some crucial information useful to answer some questions. The title of the passage tells you about the main idea of the passage or what the passage is about. Also, relate the first sentence of each para with the title of the passage. The first sentence of each paragraph is somehow related to the title of the passage. Also, the first sentence of each para contains some useful information that you will be using to answer the heading questions. Sometimes you have questions which ask you to give a heading or to select an option that functions as the heading or title for a particular paragraph. So the first sentence has the keywords that help you identify the best option that could be the title of the paragraph. To connect the ideas of the passage, you need to read the first sentence of each paragraph carefully, and you should be able to connect those ideas. Moreover, when answering the questions, answer those types of questions that you find easy. You have several types of questions in IELTS reading section. For example, true, false, not given questions. Fill the blanks questions, match the information questions, choose the correct heading questions, and so on. See where your strength lies. Whichever type of question you find comfortable, do that type first. Finally, use only 15 minutes for the first passage. I hope you know there are 3 reading passages in IELTS reading section, both in IELTS general test and IELTS academic test. You are given 60 minutes to answer 40 questions. Mathematically, on average you get 20 minutes for each passage. Yet, you should not use 20 minutes for the first passage since it is an easy passage. The level of difficulty increases from one passage to another. The second is a medium level one. And finally, the last passage, the passage 3, is a hard passage which would take more than 20 minutes. Hence, you need to use only 15 minutes for the first passage, 20 minutes for the second, and 25 minutes for the last passage. Now, let us look at the don'ts. Don't begin to read the passage. I mean, you should never start with the passage. You should start with the questions. This I am going to discuss in detail in a few minutes. Second, Don't try to understand every detail. It means not everything given in the passage is relevant to the given questions. Know that your task is to answer the questions, not to read the whole of the passage and understand every detail. Don't get involved into the story. You need to just answer the questions. Hence, you should focus only on the relevant content in the passage. How do you know which one is relevant and which one is irrelevant? I'm going to discuss that too. Third, don't begin to answer questions from the beginning in a sequence. Usually people say, I have to answer question number 1, then question number 2. So people try to answer questions in a sequence, which is illogical. Because for question number 1, you might find the answer in the first paragraph or in the second paragraph. And for question number 2, maybe the answer lies somewhere in the 5th paragraph or the 4th paragraph. Moreover, maybe you have the answer for question number 10 in the 2nd paragraph. Or maybe you have the answer for question number 9 in the 1st paragraph itself. So, don't begin to answer questions from the beginning. Fourth, don't waste your time by trying to understand something you can't grasp. The reading passage might have some rare frequency word or some hard word whose meaning you don't know, or some theory, some sentence that you can't understand. Don't waste your time on that. Just skip it. And finally, don't match the language. Don't match the language in the sense. Just because a word is there in the passage, the same word is there in one of the options. It doesn't mean that that is the best option. So you should not match the language. You should not just match vocabulary or words. Instead, you should match the meaning. Now let us proceed. Now, I explained to you my approach to IELTS reading section. I say, read a set of questions and identify the keywords in each. Here, you have a set of 6 questions. Make sure that you spend at least 2 minutes on these 6 questions. And look at the keywords. I have marked some keywords with green and the others with yellow. Green keywords imply that they are most likely to be found as they are in the passage, and the yellow keywords may or may not be there in the passage. You might find their synonyms, and the keywords which are likely to have synonyms need to be confirmed. The first question says, ants use the same channels of communication as humans do. In this statement, I don't need to confirm the keywords such as ants and humans, but the keyword same channels, the word same, has to be confirmed by the passage. I need to see whether this word is there. And what are the synonyms of same? The synonyms of same are similar, unaltered, etc. An answer is true. I mean, the statement would be true if the keywords marked green are present in the passage. Also, the keywords marked yellow or their synonyms are present in the passage. The synonyms of same are similar, unaltered, etc. The answer would be false. The keywords marked green are present in the passage, and if the antonyms of the keywords which are marked yellow are present in the passage. For example, in this case, the antonyms of same are not same, dissimilar, other, different. Finally, it would be not given if none of the keywords is present in the passage. I mean, the keywords which are marked green or the keywords which are marked yellow are not present in the passage at all, then the answer would be not given. A good knowledge of vocabulary is essential to achieve a high score in each section of IELTS. Reading section tests your reading skills and your knowledge of synonyms of various words and expressions. This passage has two sets of questions. Question number 1 to 6 are true, false and not given questions. And question number 7 to 13 are fill the blanks questions. I have already said we are not going to answer from question 1, 2, 3 and so on. Instead, we note the keywords for each question from question number 1 to question number 13. And we note them on a sheet of paper. We try to remember the keywords because we have to answer these questions and we need to identify these keywords or their synonyms in the passage. So you need to read the passage by keeping the sheet of paper in front of you in which you have noted the keywords for all the 13 questions. Now listen to this.
When we think of intelligent members of the animal kingdom, the creatures that spring immediately to mind are apes and monkeys. But in fact the social lives of some members of the insect kingdom are sufficiently complex to suggest more than a hint of intelligence. Among these, the world of the ant has come in for considerable scrutiny lately, and the idea that ants demonstrate sparks of cognition has certainly not been rejected by those involved in these investigations. Ants store food, repel attackers and use chemical signals to contact one another in case of attack. Such chemical communication can be compared to the human use of visual and auditory channels, as in religious chants, advertising images and jingles, political slogans and martial music, to arouse and propagate moods and attitudes.
I don't see any of the keywords in the first para. The second para has a keyword or a key phrase, that is to contact one another. This is nothing but communication. Read one more sentence.
Such chemical communication can be compared to the human use of visual and auditory channels.
So these two sentences say that ants use chemical signals. Humans use visual and auditory channels. Are they same or are they different? Are they similar or are they dissimilar? They are dissimilar. They are not same. Hence, for the question number 1, the answer is false. Now listen further.
The biologist Lewis Thomas wrote, "Ants are so much like human beings as to be an embarrassment. They farm fungi, raise aphids as livestock, launch armies to war, use chemical sprays to alarm and confuse enemies, capture slaves, engage in child labor, exchange information ceaselessly. They do everything but watch television." However, in ants there is no cultural transmission, everything must be encoded in the genes, whereas in humans the opposite is true. Only basic instincts are carried in the genes of a newborn baby, other skills being learned from others in the community as the child grows up. It may seem that this cultural continuity gives us a huge advantage over ants. They have never mastered fire nor progressed. Their fungus farming and aphid herding crafts are sophisticated when compared to the agricultural skills of humans 5,000 years ago, but have been totally overtaken by modern human agribusiness.
Really, this is a very tricky passage. You find the answer for the first question in the second paragraph, but you don't find the answers for the remaining 5 questions in the second and third paras. Then You find answer for the question number 11 in the fourth para. Your reading test will get into a mess if you try to find the answers for the questions in a sequence. To find the answers in a sequence, you will have to read the passage several times. You would be shuttling between the passage and the questions maybe 4 to 5 times before you finish just one passage. This is not the right approach to the reading section of IELTS. The most efficient approach to the reading passage would be identifying the keywords, noting them in a sheet of paper, remembering them, and matching them with the information given in the passage as we read it.
Or have they? The farming methods of ants are at least sustainable. They do not ruin environments or use enormous amounts of energy. Moreover, recent evidence suggests that the crop farming of ants may be more sophisticated and adaptable than was thought.
It is surprising to see that neither para 1 nor para 3 has any of the keywords that we have noted. Maybe understanding every piece of information given in these two paras is irrelevant to these 13 questions. Also, it is interesting to note that para 4 has 3 keywords, 3 sets of keywords, namely farming methods of ants, which is present in question number 11, do not ruin, which is synonym to do not affect, which is present in question number 12, and do not use enormous amounts, which means do not waste, that is present in question number 13. By matching these keywords or their synonyms, we could fill 3 blanks simultaneously. They are question number 11, question number 12, and question number 13. As for para 4, ants use sustainable methods and they do not ruin the environment and they do not use enormous amounts of energy. So we could fill these 3 blanks, namely blank 11 with sustainable, that is N, and question number 12 with environment, that is O, and question number 13 energy, that is E. Be careful when filling the blanks or when writing the answers on the OMR sheet. The direction says write the correct letter A to O in boxes 7 to 13. Make sure that you write the letters only, not these options or words. If you write these words such as sustainable, environment and energy, they would be considered wrong. I hope you understand the benefit of writing the keywords and matching the keywords or the key ideas with the keywords given in each para. Now go on, listen to the audio.
Ants were farmers 50 million years before humans were. Ants can't digest the cellulose in leaves, but some fungi can. The ants therefore cultivate these fungi in their nests, bringing them leaves to feed on, and then use them as a source of food. Farmer ants secrete antibiotics to control other fungi that might act as weeds, and spread waste to fertilize the crop.
Para 5 has a few direct keywords that we marked green and a few synonyms of the keywords that we marked yellow. These keywords include fungi, which is a direct keyword, digest, which is a direct keyword, These keywords are present in question number 7. Also, the direct keyword, that is weed, which is present in 8, is also present in para 5. In question number 9, we have a key phrase, that is use unwanted materials, which is synonym to spread waste. So waste and unwanted materials are synonyms. With the help of these keywords, we could find the answers for question number 7, 8 and 9 in para 5. Now, let us read a few lines in para 5. The second sentence says, ants can't digest the cellulose in leaves, but some fungi can. The ants therefore cultivate these fungi in their nests, bringing them leaves to feed on, and then use them as a source of food. So from this we understand that the fungi converts cellulose into a form of food that ants can digest. Thus the word cellulose would fit the blank 7. In para 5, you could see some more keywords such as secrete and weeds, which are present in question number 8. The phrase their own natural means secretion, indirectly refers to secrete, something that you secrete, and weed killer. So the word weed is also present in para 5. You could choose option C, that is cellulose, for question number 7, and option M, that is secretions, for question number 8. The last sentence of para 5 says, farmer ants secrete antibiotics to control other fungi that might act as weeds. So they secrete antibiotics means they use their secretions as weed killers. And they also use unwanted materials, that is their waste, to fertilize the crops. That means these unwanted materials are used as fertilizers. Thus, option C fits question number 7, the blank 7. Option M, that is secretions, fits the blank 8. And finally, option F, that is fertilizers, fits the blank 9. Now let us go on. Let's read para 6.
It was once thought that the fungus that ants cultivate was a single type that they had propagated, essentially unchanged from the distant past. Not so. Ulrich Müller of Maryland and his colleagues genetically screened 862 different types of fungi taken from ant nests. These turned out to be highly diverse. It seems that ants are continually domesticating new species. Even more impressively, DNA analysis of the fungi suggests that the ants improve or modify the fungi by regularly swapping and sharing strains with neighboring ant colonies.
The last sentence of para 6 has some keywords or synonyms of the keywords that we have noted for question number 10. The keywords in the last sentence are DNA analysis, which are synonym to genetic analysis. Similarly, another set of keywords includes ants improve regularly, which is synonym to constantly upgrade in question 10. The last set is neighboring ant colonies. So by reading this sentence, we could fill this blank. That is question number 10. The sentence says, ants improve the fungi by regularly swapping and sharing strains with neighboring ant colonies. So a word which is synonym to or which means swapping and sharing would fit the blank 10. And option D, which is exchanging, means swapping and sharing. Now let us read para 7.
Whereas prehistoric man had no exposure to urban lifestyles, the forcing house of intelligence, the evidence suggests that ants have lived in urban settings for close on 100 million years, developing and maintaining underground cities of specialized chambers and tunnels.
Para 7 says, whereas prehistoric man had no exposure to urban lifestyles, the forcing house of intelligence. I think we find some keywords here. The keywords are urban lifestyle and forcing house of intelligence. If you look at question number 2, the question number 2 has intelligence and city life. So intelligence is directly present. The phrase city life is a synonym of urban lifestyles. Similarly, the word encourages and the forcing, these two are synonyms. By reading these couple of lines, we could answer question number 2. As per these 3 lines, urban lifestyles or city life encourages intelligence. Hence, for question number 2, the answer is true. Now we have 4 more questions to answer. They are question number 3, 4, 5 and 6. Before we proceed, let's revise the keywords. Let us read the questions once again so that we stop the moment we come across any of these keywords or their synonyms. Now let's go on.
When we survey Mexico City, Tokyo, Los Angeles, we are amazed at what has been accomplished by humans. Yet Hoelgobler and Wilson's magnificent work for ant lovers, The Ants, describes a supercolony of the ant Formicayacensis on the Ishikari coast of Hokkaido. This megalopolis was reported to be composed of 360 million workers and 1 million queens living in 4,500 interconnected nests across a territory of 2.7 square kilometers. Such enduring and intricately meshed levels of technical achievement outstrip by far anything achieved by our distant ancestors. We hail as masterpieces the cave paintings in southern France and elsewhere, dating back some 20,000 years. Ant societies existed in something like their present form more than 70 million years ago. Beside this, prehistoric man looks technologically primitive. Is this then some kind of intelligence, albeit of a different kind? Research conducted at Oxford, Sussex and Zurich universities has shown that when desert ants return from a foraging trip, they navigate by integrating bearings and distances, which they continuously update in their heads. They combine the evidence of visual landmarks with a mental library of local directions, all within a framework which is consulted and updated. So ants can learn too. And in a 12-year program of work, Ryabko and Reznikova have found evidence that ants can transmit very complex messages. Scouts who had located food in a maze returned to mobilize their foraging teams. They engaged in contact sessions, at the end of which the scout was removed in order to observe what her team might do. Often the foragers proceeded to the exact spot in the maze where the food had been. Elaborate precautions were taken to prevent the foraging team using odor clues. Discussion now centers on whether the route through the maze is communicated as a left-right sequence of turns or as a compass bearing and distance message.
So in para 11, we find some keywords or the synonyms of the keywords which are present in question number 5. They include foraging team, which is directly present in the question, and odor, which is a synonym of sense of smell. Now by reading this sentence, we could answer question number 5. Let us read these lines. Often the foragers proceeded to the exact spot in the image where the food had been. Elaborate precautions were taken to prevent the foraging team using outer clues. But the sentence says, in one experiment, foraging teams were able to use their sense of smell. This line says, precautions were taken to prevent the foraging team from using outer clues. Hence, statement 5 is false. Now let us keep reading.
During the course of this exhaustive study, Reznikova has grown so attached to her laboratory ants that she feels she knows them as individuals even without the paint spots used to mark them. It's no surprise that Edward Wilson, in his essay, In the Company of Ants, advises readers who ask what to do with the ants in their kitchen to watch where you step. Be careful of little lives.
Our reading is done, but 2 questions are still left. They are question number 6. The last paragraph mentions the title of the essay, In the Company of Ants. But we need to confirm whether this essay explores ant communication. Let us read these lines. The last sentence says, it is no surprise that Edward Wilson, in his essay In the Company of Ants, advises readers who ask what to do with the ants in their kitchen to watch where you step. Be careful of little lives. So we have no information whether he explores ant communication. Hence, question number 6, the answer is not given. Now, we have finished reading the passage. Still, we could not answer one question, that is, question number 3. Question number 3 says, ants can build large cities more quickly than humans do. Throughout the passage, we haven't come across this comparison. Since we have not come across whether ants can build cities